All right, thank you for joining us on day three. I'm so excited. On day three of our reflection, we have Josie Hartney, who is a graduate 2017. Let's go. And I'm here to just talk about the lasting effects. So how do mission trips help us years down the road, and what kind of lessons we can learn from that. So starting off with the Psalm from today's reading, we have Psalm 71:17. It says, "My mouth shall declare your justice, day by day your salvation, O God. You have taught me from my youth, and till the present I proclaim your wondrous deeds." And so I think so many times in our youth, right, when I was reading through the Psalms, this idea that God teaches us from our youth, and some of those lessons don't come to fruition until years down the road. So brought in Josie to just kind of talk about what lessons she learned and what lessons took a little longer to learn. So Josie, you went to Calcutta in 2017, and just talk about that experience. What was that like?
Sure. So I, like you said, graduated in 2017. So Calcutta was uniquely timed in that I graduated and then a couple days later went on this trip. And for me, that mission trip was timed kind of like a springboard. It was the last thing I did, in a sense, like with Ave as a student. And it was kind of like the culmination of everything that I had been working on kind of came to fruition on that trip. And definitely then bore fruit as I've reflected on it over the past few years since then. So for me, during my time at Ave, I was a biology major, and I knew I wanted to work in the medical field somewhere, but had no idea for a really long time how I could use my gifts and where I would find my best fit. And I ended up deciding to become an occupational therapist. And so when I went to Calcutta, it was the summer between graduating from Ave and going on to OT school. And on my mission trip, we served in several different homes, but I was with, I think, about 10 students, and then the former president of the university, President Tui, and then a couple of faculty chaperones. And so we kind of got split up, and I was on in the group that went for the home for kids with disabilities. And then there were a couple of afternoons where I went to serve. Yeah, so Didon. And then for all the Calcutta peeps out there, in the afternoons I went to Caligot, which is the home for the destitute and dying. And so I got to serve with like the opposite sides of the life spectrum. And I got to just see like how I could put my love into action and use the gifts and the charisms that had been fostered during my time at Ave, and largely fostered through the Mother Teresa Project, through like the local volunteer work that I had done. But then I got to go put them into action in a very tangible way with the people I was serving there. And I remember on the trip thinking like, I just want to do more. Like I don't want to just be here for a week. I want to give my life to this ministry. I want to be able to help people in ways that I don't even know how to. Because as a student, I could love them and I could do whatever the women in charge told me to do to help them. But I didn't best know how to help the people on my own. And so that was something that was very motivating for me and affirming of the discernment that I had previously gone through to become an occupational therapist, because I knew there'd be a lot of ways that I'd get to put those life lessons learned into action as an OT, and in a sense be able to continue the mission that I was putting into action in Calcutta into the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that leads right into our next question there. Like, how do you do that, right? You're an occupational therapist in Tennessee now. Mm-hmm. And what does that look like? What do you're probably not thinking about Calcutta every single day, right? But what are some ideas or some things that come to life while you're doing your work?
Yeah. So most people, I feel like, don't know what occupational therapy is. So for those who are like the majority of the world who don't, as an OT, I get to help people basically be able to do the things that occupy your time. So we consider an occupation like the things you do in life that give life meaning. And in the rehab hospital where I work, the OT specifically focus on the activities of daily living. So helping patients be able to get on the toilet on and off by themselves or as best as they can, be able to shower, be able to get dressed, be able to eat. But then we also help them with like the bigger activities you do in your day-to-day life, like cooking, like being able to play with your grandkids, like being able to walk and live independently or as independently as you're able. And so I feel like I get to do the corporal works of mercy for a job, and I think it's a pretty sweet deal. So I think in my workplace, I get a lot of very tangible opportunities to practice seeing Jesus in disguise and serving him as I'm literally like dressing the naked and like feeding the hungry and doing those things. But I think the thing that carries over most from my trip to Calcutta is the lesson learned on how in Matthew, I think it's 25 verse 40 is when it says the king will reply, whatever you did to the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it to me. And so one main way that I try to put that lesson into action through my work is to just like love my patients as I would love Christ, and to like will their good in the same way that I would will the good of someone I was serving on a mission. And like, there are a lot of really uncomfortable situations that I find myself in work. And a lot of people in this world would just grumble and complain because people don't long for humility. But I think that that's like a way that I've grown to cherish, like doing those little uncomfortable things, like cleaning somebody's feet. Not all feet are created equal. It's a really humbling task sometimes to be able to help some of the patients that I do. But I think that when I remember like how much love we can put into action and how much you can uphold the dignity of every person through how you treat them, that's something that I really learned in Calcutta, because in the home for the destitute and dying, I saw people in worse physical condition than I'd been really exposed to before. And yet they're still people and still deserving of all of the love and affection that God would give to any of his precious sons and daughters. And so to recognize that you can still love people no matter what they look like, where they're coming from, what position that they're in. People in hospitals in America are the same way. Like they may be alone, rejected. Their families may not be caring for them. They may be ashamed of whatever has gone on in their medical lives. But they don't need to be. Like you can still treat them. And I would say you can do that in any workplace too. You don't have to be in a hospital to treat someone with love. So.
Right. No, without a doubt. And I think what you're talking about kind of echoes the experience I had in Diadon. You know, helping kids go to the bathroom, that could be something that really like pushes you. They're like, oh, that's disgusting, you know, but then you almost feel bad. Like, imagine not being able to do that on your own. Like, and I feel like in the occupational therapy world, like so many of the tasks you're helping people do is something that they're used to be doing on their own. And yeah, they could just be so self-conscious about that. So entering that with love, I think is so important.
Sure.
So what, I guess there's no follow-up there. What would you say to a student on campus, you know, as we go into the paschal mystery here, and, you know, we can reflect on Thursday on Christ washing the feet of his apostles. You know, what were some things, or what would you encourage Ave students to think about to bring that love into their life, or have a similar experience that you had on the mission trip?
I guess my parting advice would to be just like follow Mother's advice of find Calcutta anywhere. I remember just thinking about how even though I was there for a week, I wasn't supposed to stop looking for opportunities to serve Christ. And it seems like it's easier sometimes when you like are in a place unfamiliar to you. And honestly, like I would challenge everyone to do it in the places most familiar to them, because that's where the rubber hits the road. Like it's really easy for me to love a stranger down the street in Calcutta, but it's really hard for me to love my roommates. And it's really hard for me to love my sisters when they've maybe said or done something to bother me. And so like I would challenge students to still put that love into action in their day-to-day lives, but also especially for the seniors and those maybe working summer jobs or internships, like remember how you treat each person is still a manifestation of like how you would treat Christ in that person, and how you can put like his love into action and be Christ to people and see Christ in people, no matter where you are.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, Josie, thank you so much for joining us. That's great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're excited to get you on campus. So coming down for Alumni Weekend and the Annunciation Feast in a little bit here. So
can't wait.
Yeah, we'll see you then. Well, have a good one, Josie. Thank you.
Thanks.